Good morning and welcome to Soul Brunch. Today we are going to talk about mistakes, all the mistakes we make, and how to reframe this mindset that we have. Hello, Lola. Hi, Dolores. Really nice to see you. We're going to be waiting about 5 minutes to before we begin to allow everyone in. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. We are streaming on Insight Timer on YouTube and on Twitch at the same time. Thank you, Lola. Yes, I am back in the UK. I am in Woking in my good friend's house. They've been so nice to host me for this quarantine. So at least, and I'm not spending it on my own, and spending it with them is so much better. Doesn't feel as daunting. So very grateful for that, and it's great to be back in the UK. It's familiar places. I've been here 12 years, and it's the beginning of a couple of years that are gonna have me traveling quite a lot, hopefully, all around, and I feel this is sort of like the beginning of it. The great thing is that with Dolores, we have set a date for me to go to El Paso in the US. We're talking about second week of June. Once the date is 100%, you will see it on the website. So it's very, very exciting. It's going to be the beginning of a really interesting thing. How is everyone? How is everyone here? How are you guys feeling? Anything positive that happened to you in the weekend? Anything positive? Anything you would like to tell us? It would be great to know. Always makes us feel good. And a couple more minutes and we'll begin. Yes, indeed, tour updates coming soon. The 25th of June, as right now, is the date for the concert in El Paso, isn't it? It's very, very exciting. And for those of you in the UK, if you would like to have a coffee with me, I have to start setting up a date, but I will come to London at some point, maybe a couple of days, and we could do that. June 25th it is, yes, great. El Paso, Texas. Lola had 2 job interviews back to back with very little sleep. I think you did well. Fantastic. Very good. I'm sure you'll get it. You'll get exactly what you need. Fantastic. And so I'm probably going to be around Spain and Portugal in February. I'll be streaming from different places. And then I will be in the US for the summer. So it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Also, I would like to spark some more conversation ideas on Instagram. So if you are feeling like chatting sometimes and you see some of the posts and you feel like commenting, I will comment back and we can start conversation underneath those posts. So do keep an eye on the Instagram of Soul Brunch as well. Okay, so it's 4 minutes in, I say we begin. So, today I would like to start a new topic. We have had a conversation about happiness, but I thought we could switch it around a bit and start thinking about reframing mistakes. Would love to meet when quarantine is over. Yes, that would be great, particularly for those of you in London since I'm here for a few days. No playing, no, because unfortunately here in the UK I don't have my piano, so not much singing and not much playing, I'm afraid. But more discussing, more meditations. That is going to be in the next few days. Listen to some of the conversation on happiness. Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? But it can get quite daunting, particularly the way we are tackling that conversation. Heidi, good morning. So I thought let's do something on this, particularly because I Learn is the song that we all wrote together that has, I think, the most potential. I know it went really deep, maybe too deep. It was a very, very powerful conversation. And for those of you who were not there, the conversation was about the whole idea of not seeking happiness as our end goal, but to find happiness by changing that end goal into growth instead. Because the happiness that we seek most of the times is just a physical response to something that happens in the outside world. So it's a chemical reaction, and that is just a fix. It's just like taking a substance. So if we don't look for that fix, we don't look for that waterfall of hormones, then we will be able to change our mindset into growth instead, and that will bring to happiness in a much more indirect way. In terms of my piano, I'm only going to be in the UK for about 15 days, for a couple of weeks. So, and then when I go to Spain and Portugal, I will bring my piano with me. But there was no point for me to bring the piano over the plane and risk breaking it for just a couple of weeks. So, thank you for your patience, and I'll make you miss my piano player, my piano playing for a bit. We're in Spain. I am planning to go for a few weeks in Sevilla, in the south of Spain, and then I would like to go to Lisbon for another couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to it, particularly because Spain right now is much freer than Italy is in terms of restrictions and the way they're tackling the issues of the of the pandemics. So that's why I am planning to do that, because it's been quite hard on my mental health, I have to say. I didn't realize how hard it has been until I came here to the UK. Cool. Do let me know. Is it Flavio and Flavio and Susanna? Yeah, very miss traveling as well, and I'm gonna do that by car, so there is a lot less problems than flying. But as I was saying, when I arrived here, even though I'm in isolation, I felt like I know that when I finish isolation here, I can go to the cinema, I can go to a restaurant, while in Italy I cannot. So it's all these little things, and this pressure sort of like eased in a way. Miss traveling put stamps in my passport. Yes. More freedoms, exactly. And the UK has more freedoms. Spain seems to be the ones that are tackling the best. Um, Portugal is a bit restrictive, so I'm gonna see once I'm there what the situation is, and and I'll be able to show you some stuff outdoors as well, like some more places, some different places. So I'm really looking forward to share this adventure with you, to keep the streams, to maybe meet some new people, bring them to the show, and make it more international, make it more interesting, rather than just seeing me with this blank, you know, uh, background here, just bringing some people to chat with. Daniel is his name. I met him when I was working in Copenhagen. Oh, it'd be interesting to have his contact. Italy's awful at the moment. My mom has been updating me. That's why I didn't go home again this year. Yes, it's absolutely awful. Hi, Patty. Nice to see you. So it is a very difficult situation there, and I spent 4 months there. And when I came here, I realized, wow, I've been having like really mental health pressures that I didn't know before, and so it was quite interesting for me to see that, to see I am still affected by quite a lot of things that I don't really care about, Because it's like going to the cinema. Yeah, I want to go watch The Matrix, but going to the restaurant, yeah, well, go and meet some people. That's fine, but it's not something that changes my life. It's not something that I feel particularly attached to. But at the same time, the thing that I can't do it, the restriction of it, puts a toll in your mind. And then when you come out in a different place, so you travel to a place with different restrictions, you start realizing, wow, I've been like so angry about the whole thing, and then you start trying to see that anger, and how that anger has been affecting the moods and stuff like that, and it gives you sort of like a snapshot of things that you need to work on, and so you start working on them. You're working on them for a few months, and then try to see if you can get affected by the situation less. Either that, or you just blame the situation and keep feeling like you feel. That's pretty much, those are the options. And I think having the mindset of not trying to change what you can't control, and not try to blame it too much on the outside, and be able to withstand the pressure with your own resources, with your own tools, is a mindset that allows you to change the way you see things. And I think this is a good intro to what we're going to talk next, which is sort of like an analysis of this song that we've written, and go line by line and start discussing it together. Start to see how we can change, how by switching a mindset we can change the way we think, we can change the way we act. And I've done a really interesting session yesterday with a group in Canada and the session was about manifestation, and it was really interesting to hear how people at the beginning of a year have different ideas of what they would like to manifest. It is something that we tend to do at New Year's Eve, to start thinking, what am I going to do this year, right? New Year's resolutions, I think they're called. And it's quite amazing how every single person had a resolution that had to be something they wanted, but very rarely something to change. And I think that is a very interesting thing to think about. Is like, you want to make more money, you want to be more financially able, let's say, as an example. A lot of people might have that particular resolution, but having the mindset on a want will just keep you craving for it. But if we ask ourselves the question, why am I not financially viable? What do I need to do to increase it, and what am I not doing that doesn't allow me that? And then I realize that maybe I'm procrastinating, and maybe I realize I'm procrastinating because I'm afraid of the failure, and try to go deeper into the reasons why, on all the things that are stopping me to achieve what I want, and then have as a resolution to work on those things instead. So, and this connects a little bit with the discussion that we had about happiness, about try to go and work on the principles instead of placing our mind on things that can sidetrack, and then all we want will come as a result of the inner work, like Linda says, on the mindset change. So instead of focusing on how to get more money, start to focus on how am I going to stop procrastinating? What can I do to change the procrastination, and all the resources that I use, all the attention and focus that I use when I procrastinate, and use it to do something, and try to reframe it. Hi, Stephanie. Love that insight. Super timely today for you. Great. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation today. So fear of failure, most of the times is connected to a really big fear of making mistakes. So think about it now. When you make a mistake, how do you feel? How do you usually feel when you make a mistake? How do you usually feel when you make a mistake? Happiness relating to our personal growth instead of a want. Exactly. Silly and small. Awful. Exactly. Feel disappointed with myself. That is exactly how we feel. And it's deflated. Gary from the other room. She's literally sitting there. Hi, Carrie. Deflated. Yes, deflated. And if you think about mistakes, when it starts from school, doesn't it? It starts from children. You go to school, you have a test, you make a mistake, that mistake is marked in red, and you're giving a lower mark. Also learn how not to do something. Yeah, exactly, how to not make the mistake. Shame. Second time in 2 days I've heard that word. Interesting. Deflated. It's a particular word to have synchronicity on. Disappointed. Exactly. So those are all the feelings that are connected with those mistakes. And I know many of you may have done the session, the journey number 2, that has this particular song and that reframes this mindset. So the problem we've got with the mistakes is the mindset, is the fact that this mindset has been inoculated. I think that word has been used quite a lot recently. It's been inoculated within our system since a young age, and has been passing generation through generation. Our parents, when they were young, they were scolded by their parents, who were scolded by their parents if they made a mistake. Shame is a terrible thing, teaches us nothing good. Exactly. It's very true. So if we could change that mindset, and so what I would like you to do now for a second is close your eyes and try to remember a time when you were about 2, between 1 and 2. So I'm not going to ask you to remember something of that time because that wouldn't be possible, but just feel as if you were that age. And remember or imagine just getting up for the first time on your 2 legs and taking a first step and falling. And then getting back up and try again. And this time, the first step goes because that fall taught you something. Then you try to take another step and then fall again. Then you take a few more steps, tentative, and then you fall again. And try to realize that is when you fell that you learned the most. The tentative steps that were almost okay did teach you something, but the real teaching came from the fall. And hey, coordinating all those muscles to be able to walk is so hard for the body to learn, isn't it? And yet you did. Now think about the first time you started talking for the first time. Of all the words you said wrong. So isn't thanks to all those falls, all those things you said wrong, that you're now able to walk and speak without even having to think? So open your eyes now and start thinking about those mistakes and of falling and of saying. So readjust. Yes, that's the fall teaches you where to readjust. That's correct. That's exactly it. So how do you feel now if you think about those mistakes that you made when you were 1 or 2? How do you feel about them? You were praised and encouraged. Correct, Diana. That's very true. That's so helpful, isn't it? You were praised and encouraged for trying, for making the mistake, and to learn from it. How do you feel about that mistake? Would you be a, don't you think that since this is the principle, every mistake you made is just a stepping stone that got you to where you are now? Happy for their mistakes, determination, excited about the adventure of moving for the first time. I know, right? So why can't we use this feeling that we have towards those mistakes, that we have a clear view that those mistakes were responsible for us to learn to do something so hard as walking and speaking, guided and supported. That's right. So have that feeling that you're feeling now about those mistakes and try to apply it to those mistakes that you felt awful about before. To become an expert at anything. Isn't an expert someone who has done all the mistakes possible and have found a solution for all of them? And if you're lucky, someone tells you what the mistake is, and you're lucky enough to understand it deep enough for you not to make it. Saves you a lot of effort and time. So this change of mindset is what? Think about how much it could change your life if you just could reframe the way you see your mistakes. And don't get me wrong, there are situations where mistakes are not possible. Like you are, I don't know, you land planes from the tower at the airport. Can't make mistakes there. I mean, there are situations where there are mistakes and there are mistakes. And it is for us to assess how, if there are situations where we can't make mistakes, then we know it and we need to work hard beforehand and be very, very focused. But when it comes to mistakes that, and even those mistakes would teach you something, but you don't want to know. You don't want to know. But the mistakes that we made on day-to-day life within our relationships, like try to see the mistakes we make within our partners and try to rectify it, try to learn from them, try to be open to see them and to understand them and to help them make us the people we want to be. It's the only way we learn. Exactly. Grow, expand, become bigger than what we currently are. That is right. But we know it. So why do we feel so bad about them all the time? Why? Because that was the first reaction. That is the first reaction I always get from people when I ask, how do you feel when you make a mistake? Awful. Deflated. If we could, every time we make a mistake, have a different feeling and like laugh about it and be like, and laugh in happiness, talking about happiness, and be like, yeah, I made this mistake. Wow, what a chance I've got now to be like, okay, I'm not going to make this mistake anymore. I'm now better. I've now understood it and I'm better. And some mistakes will make it more than once because maybe they have more facets to them. They're going to be hard to not make. But at least we will have gone a step towards finding a solution. It's the perception we have of ourselves, the judgments and the criticism which holds us back and makes you feel bad. Yes, so there is that is very interesting, which is what people think of us when we make a mistake. But they think of us when we make a mistake because they're afraid of making it themselves. And so all they're doing is projecting their fear for those mistakes, those feeling, and be like, oh, that person made a mistake. You must feel so awful. I would feel so awful, and so I judge you. So it is a vicious circle, but the only way to get out is for us to reframe it. And in the face of that mistake and in the judgment of that mistake, just counter. Just counter with, like, yes, that's true, that was wrong, but this is what I learned from it. What do you think? Is there anything else I could learn? If you told that to someone who's judging you about a mistake, like, guess how they would respond? It would completely switch them, like shock them. Perception. Oh yeah, some mistakes need the safety net of practicing until it's safe enough to take action, like flying planes and acrobats. Exactly. Yes, you do need that. But people have problems having like, particularly if you're doing something like acrobatics, where if you make a mistake in the net, think about how much fear you've got. It's like, oh crap, if I felt like that without the neck, what would have happened, right? And so, of course, there are situations and situations, but it's thanks to that mistake that you have more chances not to break your neck next time you do it without a net. That's how we will learn and grow and expand our knowledge. That's right, Diana. Most of the time, we have been shamed or hurt from the mistakes that are made as adults. We are not allowed. And we are the only one that can change it. And we are not allowed because of the fear of judgment. So if someone judges you on it, and you are able to just change the conversation from the mistake to what you learn from it, that judgment will now become potentially a positive reinforcement instead. Now, of course, there's a case where you make errors and mistakes over and over again without learning. But that's I think is another discussion. So, going back to this song, what I would like to do is to have you hear it, even though it might be slightly crackly. It's okay. I'll have you hear the song. Still can. Okay, that's good. Okay, so. Oh, you can't hear me. It's off, isn't it? Let's see if you hear me now. All good? Gone again. Damn. Check, check, check. Okay, how about now? Okay, I'm there. Perfect. Sorry. Every time I open the software, that happens. So I have to reload the feed. Okay, let's see if you hear the song.
Teacher, what do you expect of me? Do you assume I should understand and accept every breath you breathe? Mother, I'm only human. What must I do to make you happy other than perfect? Took me so long. Stop spreading blame. I am now taking the reins of my life. I'm ready to claim every mistake is my chance to grow. A stepping stone, vital to achieving every goal. So I embrace them with all my all. 'Cause I never lose, either I win or I learn. I never lose, either I win or I learn. Father, what are these rules you impose? I'm trying, but no matter what I do, it's not quite enough for you. Sister, please understand me. Give me if I can't always be the role model that you need. Took me so long to pick myself up. I am now making the shape of my life and prove to me that every mistake is my chance to grow. A stepping stone, vital to achieving every goal. So I embrace them with all my all. 'Cause I never lose, either I win or I learn. I never lose, either I win or I learn. I'm ready to go the distance, ready to run the extra mile. I'm willing to do what people preach but never do. To dream as big as I can dream. 10,000 hours of blood, sweat and tears, tumble and fall and then back up. 'Cause I never lose, either I win or I learn. God, why is so serious? If you didn't want me to send, why make it so sweet to end? Every mistake is my chance to grow. A stepping stone, vital to achieving every goal. So I embrace them with all my all. 'Cause I never lose, either I win or I learn. I never lose, either I win or I learn. I never lose. Either I win or I learn.
It's a good song, isn't it? I really like it. It's one of my favorite ones. And yes, I absolutely love the strings. My dad did a great job. He's the one who did the arrangement, and we got them recorded from real players. Hi, Mara. Nice to see you. Hi, Didi. And I think this song has something. And for those of you who are new, not sure if there's anyone who's never been here before, if there is, let yourself know. It would be great to meet you. We have written this song together based on discussions like the ones we're having now. So it's part of the creative side of this segment of a soul brunch. And what I would like to do now is take the first line of this song, the first verse, which is this one. I'll put it here, and we can start thinking about it. Let's talk about teachers, shall we? Let's talk about school. What was your... Hi, Cream. Nice to see you. Can't wait to add the live dancers. I know. When I come to El Paso, we will have a dance group dancing to this song, and we'll make videos of it. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be really cool. So, teachers, what's your experience when it comes to mistakes? The way your teachers made you feel about mistakes. So we have Cream, Maura, and Sarah, who's not here, from California. There are a few of you, which is awesome. Teacher, what do you expect of me? Do you assume I should understand and accept every breath you breathe? It's a good question, isn't it? Since a young age, we are taught to obey, that we should avoid making mistakes at all cost. Disapproving, yeah. Every time we write something incorrectly, it is a red line and a lower mark. The more mistakes we make, the more No coloring outside the box. Have you stayed inside the lines? I'll put that as an idea we need to discuss. No coloring outside the box. Cream says, my stepfather would always say, don't believe it because they say it. Use your own mind. Gave us freedom of thought. That is so important. Restrictive, discouraging, and shuts down imagination. It really does. The more mistakes we make, the more ineffectual inaccurate we are. We should be punished. Yes, confidence goes away. I had a really bad speech impediment as a young child and was told by the teachers I was stupid. Rather than help and support me, they berated me. Exactly. We should be punished. Bye, Lola. Hopefully now, with younger generations, there is a little bit more understanding of it. But I was chatting with Carrie the other day, how teachers they have classes about emotional intelligence, but they only give it to trouble kids. And it's like, why not give them to all kids? So it is still like they still now want to do something about it, but they still give that only to the people that have problems, while every person should have an emotional intelligence education behind. So it is still a punishment. It also it's taken as a punishment instead of a tool of support. If you're not happy learning with a paper and pen, you're distracting problem child. Yeah, and that sparks another point, which is maybe some people are having a harder time sitting down because they're very within their body. And so probably because that child needs to run, that child needs to do things with their body at that stage. And so why force a kid that is not in a phase where it makes sense to be bombarded by intellectual notions, and just get them out on the field and get them to play football or run around? And so it is a bit of a lack of individualization. I'm not sure if it makes sense. It's a problem of trying to standardize everything. The whole idea of that everyone is the same, right? And we do that because we try to be inclusive, and we say every individual is the same. But then it goes to the other extreme where we try to standardize and make everything the same for everyone, but it's not like that. So we are the same in one way, and we are so amazingly different in another. And we learn differently. Pulled my son from public school. Yeah, I didn't go to public school in elementary and middle school, which was great. There is no set formula to one's learning. Exactly. So why wouldn't schools to sort of like try different things? If a child is not responsive to your standard way of teaching, maybe you should change the way of teaching and not the kid. No? Wouldn't that make so much more more sense? I think it would. So trying to find schools for the kids that do have this mindset and try to figure out what the mindset is. It's quite important, I think. we grew up in a system that demonize mistakes. It'd be interesting if children were taught based on their learning methods, not academic grades. Yeah. Teacher training needs to be more creative. I agree. Particularly if a kid is creative. But having different methods and try to to just teach the kid the right method for that kid. But at the same time, it would be difficult to have that within. So each school having different methods. That's probably would be very hard to deal with. So maybe there is a solution to that, and it is to try early on. Instead, that'd be good. Instead of placing a child in a school based on where they are, just base it on the method. So research the school first, assess it maybe with a professional, assess your child with a professional. But I mean, if you have a child, if that child likes to run and move and is hyperactive within the body, or if a child is more into reading or coloring or things like that, you can see it in the child quite easily. And then try to find the school that that has a method that connects with that child. I think that as parents, that's a good way to do it, I think. But of course, then you have the problem of having to find a school that is close enough to where you live. That is so. It's nothing is simple, isn't it? When you start deep thinking and try to see things from different perspectives, it's really hard to find a solution that is completed. But if within your value is the fact that your child should be in a school of a certain method, because that certain method is good for that particular child. Personally, I would move house and go towards the school rather than the other way around. But I have the kind of mindset that I changed like 16, 17 houses in the past 15 years. Sometimes I would change house every 6 months. So it's I have the mindset of, oh, you know what, there's a better school there, let's move there. But of course, it's not possible for everyone. People have jobs. People have homes that they're attached to. So there's no solution that fits for all. But having the idea that, yeah, maybe my kid, if your kid has problems within that school, maybe start thinking maybe it is the school the problem. If the child is not learning. Hi, peace. Also comes down to the individual teachers. It does. So it's also the lack of finding a good teacher. Unfortunately, is what comes to mind on that is to not settle for the first thing that comes. Is like try different things. If something doesn't work and you assess why it doesn't work, maybe, give it another try. Or like research a bit more. There are ways to, and I think the key to that a lot of the times is what we talked about last time when we talked about happiness. It is about deep thinking, isn't it? If we learn how to deep think, then we have more chances of seeing things through different perspectives. And that deep thinking comes from a deeper state of mind. Deep thinking doesn't mean thinking more and horizontally about something, or it means being able to think with different parts of our mind. As a teacher, I think of myself as inspiring students to think for themselves. I'm just providing the opportunity, but I can't do the thinking for them. That's correct. But as a teacher, you also have a chance to try to understand how a kid think and what their process is. And this brings a really interesting conversation that I had with Carrie the other day, which was about color, and that was awesome. So I am colorblind, right? I find it hard to find the difference between blue and violet, or red and green, and green and yellow. There are loads of colors that mix up. So, so we did this test where you have words, like the colors and the color of the word, and the name of the color is on a different color. So red could be a blue writing, green would be a yellow one. And so the test is that you read it and you need to see either if you read the word or if you're more attracted to the color. And it was quite funny because for me it was extremely easy to read the word and not the color, while for her it was easier to read the color, to say the color rather than the wording. And that's because not seeing the colors, for me, I just see shapes. Then we did it. We tried where you had to not read the word but read the color, and for her it was so much quicker. So she could just see the color a lot quicker than the writing. And for me, I would have to literally go word by word and try to analyze and find that color. And most of the times it could be either yellow or green. So my speed on that was absolutely non-existent. So as a kid that is colorblind, all of a sudden I realized the other day by thinking that it's like, wow, I think of shapes. I don't think of colors. So if someone asks me to remember a person and they tell me what color was their shirt, I'd be like, I have no idea. I don't register it at all. And I would say, oh, it had a short, like the had no sleeves, or it had a different shape, or it had a shape like on it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what color it was. It just doesn't register to me. So for someone like in my situation, I see the world in a very different way. So how do you teach me? Some children are book smart and other are visual learners. Yeah. Interesting to see this point of view. It was so interesting, this conversation, because I was like, wow, it's like, I think and see the world in a completely different way. And I always thought, it's colorblind. It's whatever. Some colors I see, sometimes I get confused, and that's okay. But that went much deeper as I started deep thinking it, because it's not just that the colors are, sometimes that red looks brown or whatever, is the fact that I completely see things in different ways. And I realized that in my sessions, a lot of the times, I will describe the shapes and not talk about the colors at all. You're teachable through communication, yeah. Sound. Went through a communication course that taught me how to communicate with somebody who could not see colors. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And sometimes they're like, what color was that? And I'm like, I don't know. And they think, I'm like, why does he need to remember the colors? I just don't register it. It's interesting. It's really interesting. My son is colorblind too. Some teachers work with him better than others. Yeah. I mean, the work of a teacher is just so hard. If you start really realizing how much you have to adapt to kids that sometimes you barely know. Sometimes we have to cut some slack to people, It's like it's always easy to go and say, oh, the teacher was bad, and And maybe the teacher wasn't bad, he just wasn't adaptable, just couldn't adapt to that kid, and just brought in her or his own feelings about that kid, and that, made the relationship and the communication impossible. So a lot of the times is like, anytime we judge someone or something, if we can sit down and deep think it and try to ask ourselves, well, why did this person act this way? There is only one outcome to that, and that outcome is that at some point we will feel some kind of compassion for that person. And in a Buddhist point of view, where a lot of practices like mindfulness, and they try to stop us from thinking, and by the way, I have always the tendency to think that if too many people say the same thing, probably that thing is not the right one and you need to go the other way around. So maybe, just maybe, it's much more effective, instead of trying to stop to think and having a blank mind, to try to go to a mind that allow us to deep think, so to use the deeper mental part of ourselves, and from that deep thinking release a type of compassion or gratitude or love, which are the three main emotions that we can use to fill any void or anything we want to change. I think it would be a hard job to teach one child, let alone 30 individual kids. Yeah, so you've got that as well. Raise my hat to teachers. I couldn't do it. Thank you, teachers who help our children learn. So you see how you start with some things like, oh, those teachers teaching like that, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you start feeling grateful for them. Just by deep thinking something that we maybe, we just maybe had some superficial opinion about. That doesn't mean that all teachers are bad and all teachers are good. You will just have teachers that are just blatantly bad. So it's like, but this idea of the mistakes is not necessarily within the teacher, it's also within the system. So we use the mistakes to mark if a piece of work is good or not. I used to get so mad because maybe I would write an essay and the concepts were really interesting, and I thought that I was putting it down really nicely. And then I would get marked for some grammar mistake. And I'm like, why are you marking me for that? It's like, yeah, I can get better at the grammar, but, it's what I'm saying that matters, not how. And if you look at social media now, the way it is that you've got the grammar police everywhere. It's like someone says something, and instead of discussing the concept, they start discussing the form. And you're like, oh, but that person used that verb wrong. And it's like, he's just an idiot. And if he uses the verb wrong, that means that what he's saying or she's saying can't be accurate, can't be good. And it's like, no, it's just grammatically incorrect, but just what are they trying to think? What they're trying to say? So this emphasis on on finding the mistakes and having to find that mistakes and mark it, without a follow-up of what do you learn from it, and just show you the mistake and bring the mark down. I felt it was my responsibility to teach my son the way I wanted him to learn, and the teachers were there as an aid for me. Yes, I do think at the end of the day, you can blame the teachers, but it is in the end the parents that have the biggest responsibility. If a teacher is not working for your child, trying to change the way that teacher teaches to fit your child, considering it's probably teaching 30 more, it's probably be better to move the child to a different place. And my mom sent me to a school, and everyone thought she was crazy because we had to drive about an hour every day to get there and an hour back every day. And she would just, 6 a.m, we'd go there. Then she would pick me up, go to work, pick me up every day. So it does require a lot of sacrifice sometimes to do that. But hey, you're doing it for your child, right? Who else would you do it for? I'm a teacher who learns from my students because I don't know everything. Yeah, that's a very good mindset. Not every parent is equipped. Sorry, that went down. Not every parent is equipped to do which is even to do that, which is even more reason the teaching system needs to be fixed. If the teaching system could be fixed, then you would have smarter parents that would be equipped. So it's like it's a vicious circle, isn't it? If you don't fix the education system, you can't have parents that have the tools to help their kids. But if the parents don't have the tools to help the kids, we can't fix the education system. So I don't know. Diana did that for her son. That's great. Well, that's the point. It's sacrifice. I decided to have children, so I had to make it work as far as his learning went. Yeah, I think it's part of that. It's so important. It's so important. But if the parents aren't educated, they can't educate the child. It goes back generations to what their parents were taught. Exactly. So that shows that there is a vicious circle we're in, a circle of ignorance. And it comes back to Buddhism, isn't it? And that circle of ignorance can only be broken by an individual. It starts from an individual. It starts from us. It starts from working on ourselves. It's the only way. There's no other way. Every other way is flawed. My parents are not educated. I learned it on my own. I had some pretty good teachers as well. And you know, every kid's life, if your kid goes into bad companies and start using drugs and stuff, like, change school immediately. As you start seeing it, change it. And you'll have kids that will go in that direction because that's what their predisposition is, and there are certain situations that they cannot be controlled. But generally, with a good education and an open eye and an open heart, an open mind, I think you can keep your children out of trouble. Sometimes parents blame teachers and teachers blame parents rather than working together. Very true. It baffles me why school administrators can't change public school standards that are not working. They also are given no money to do that. My sister is an amazing homeschool mom, but my sister-in-law didn't graduate and spends no time educating herself or her kids. You see how individual it is? Does it come down to the individual? It does. Education is not important. That opens another can of worms. I think education as a whole, it is very important. Is what are you teaching? The question, because you could educate everyone about, I don't know, something useless. Can't come to my mind. It's very hard to find something completely useless, but like, for example, you can take history and you can just teach it like cold facts and dates, and you give marks down if the kid doesn't know the date. And it, like, why is it so important if that event was in 1666 and 1668? It was like, who cares? That was like 400 years ago. What I care about is why what we're studying made history, right? What is the principle behind what happened that changed the world so that particular piece of information stayed recorded among billions of pieces of information? Isn't that much more important than the when it happened? And even the what happened sometimes? Isn't it the why it happened a lot more important? And that's the same with mathematics. You teach mathematics, it's like, this is how it works, this is how it is. You don't tell them why it is and why it's important, what it's doing to your mind. So this kind of, and that is why maybe you can't change the system, but you can change the mindset. So mindset work is, I think, I'm starting to think, working on mindset through the use of principles is the best education. Find the principles and change your mindset around them. And you'll find a principle is a principle when it's simple, but so complicated at the same time. But we are at the end of our session today. And I hope that even if we don't have the piano or the singing that much, you're still finding this interesting and thought-provoking, because that is what I'm aiming to achieve, is just to provoke thought, to provoke some ideas for you to go back home tonight, this evening, or this morning, or wherever you are, and maybe discuss it with your partner, discuss it with your friends, see what they think, bring the conversation in, and have something to talk about that goes beyond what happened today, and goes beyond people, and start thinking about ideas, start thinking about principles, start thinking about these kind of things, start talking about these kind of things with your friends, and you will see what friends react to it. And you will, if you start going in that direction, all of a sudden you have a group of people that will make you creative, will make you want to think, will make you want to do things, and it will change the way you live. Teaching physics and biology class, that sounds awesome. Thank you, Linda. I love them too. I hope you enjoyed it. And I have set up another live. Did I? I don't think I did. I do have to set up the next live. Okay, I'll set up the next live for Thursday evening. Thursday evening, I believe, is going to be the next one. But keep an eye here in Insight Timer. Also, do come to Instagram if you feel like, if you haven't followed yet, because there's going to be some stuff going on there. So, if it's morning, have a wonderful morning. If it's afternoon, have a fantastic afternoon. If it's evening, have a great evening. And if it's night, well, good night.